the problem, like Kate was saying, is asking how much, we had to figure out how much Jen spent, and yes, the right person, you have to use operations with the 4 numbers here to make an expression.
So wouldn't that be like 12 times 2?
That's what it would be. You would want to put a multiply here.
Then
Keep going.
wouldn't you put 12 times 2 in parentheses?
So a lot of times people like those parentheses because it helps remind you to do that first or separately.
And then I would put plus,
You would put a plus here,
and then 6 times 3.
and then 6 times 3 like that. That's a great way to do it. Okay, so we could then figure out Haley how much she spent, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much?
So let's see, what's
24, right?
Yeah, plus 18.
Good job.
And that equals 42.
And we're doing dollars in the end, even though I didn't show the dollar symbols above. They didn't, but your answer would be $42. Okay, raise your hand if that makes sense. So good job. That was a good start for you guys this time. I feel like all of a sudden, you kind of are getting used to having a hard class at the end of the day. It's hard. So, Brighton, I don't know if you got to the next one, but it's kind of the same idea. Nick is going to buy 12 pens for $2. Don't you think that's a lot of money for pens, you guys?
Yeah,
Right?
I said pets. They could be really expensive.
I know there are. Well, you could spend like $25 and $30 and $40 on a pen that's like gold. But like I buy the 5 pack for $1
Yeah,
at Target because I lose them. Wyatt?
I've seen I saw a $45 pen.
Yeah.
I saw it was or there was also a $30 pen I saw that was a space pen. It basically instead of having your name in there, it had a like it was like pressurized. So there was you could write upside down.
Yeah. See,
and
I.
you could write underwater and everything.
Right.
And then there was also one that was $30 like that, except it was made out of 25 caliber bullet. So
Okay. So yeah. So Nick's somewhere in between. So Nick did some shopping, Brighton, and he bought 12 pens for $2 each and 12 pads for $3 each.
Okay.
And the problem asked you to do something really specific. It said, write 2 expressions to calculate Nick's total. So can you do 2 expressions? Maybe one in expanded form and then one in factor form. So do you remember those forms from the other day? In factor?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you do? What? And they spelled Nick with just a C. Somebody just had told me. We'll get rid of that. How about that? Okay, so
Okay. So,
give me one form. Yeah.
I think it remember.
Okay, give me a try.
12 plus 12, or
So well, let's. That's not quite it. So if you did 12 pens, and each one was $2, how do you figure out how much you spent on pens? Would you? So let's say if you have 1 pen, it'd be $2, right? If you had 2 pens, it would be $4. If you had 3 pens, it'd be $6.
Would it be multiplication?
Would it be?
oh, okay. So 2 times 12.
Right.
Okay, and then 3 times 12.
Yes, and
And then add them together.
yes, exactly.
Oh, good. I didn't do all the work for dollars.
And then add them together. So that's one expression. Whoops. Look at that.
Is that expanded?
That is the expanded. That's right. And so if we solved it with expanded, Jen, what would you get for that part?
We would get 24
24.
plus 24 plus 36.
Right. 24 plus 36, and that adds up to 60. What's the factor form? Do you know the factor, Jen?
Factor form is it is 12 times, so it's in parentheses 2 plus 3.
Good. so we should be able to work it out factor form because 2 plus 3 is 5, and 12 times 5 is 60. And 60 equals 60.
Really?
That is a ridiculous amount to spend on pens and pads.
$60.
Okay. Oh well. They're living in a different world than we are. Okay. So, let's take a look at this for a minute. This discussion here, this problem they're asking you about, they're using this as an example of, like, if you read a problem, like the one about Jen up here, this one right here, you naturally do order of operations in your brain when you go shopping. You naturally do. You know, you think about, well, I'm going to spend this much on pens and this much on paper, and then I'm going to add them together. So what happens is sometimes you have math problems that don't really have any story with it, and then it's not so natural. And so we have to talk about something called order of operations. And I think you guys worked on this a little bit last year, right? Parentheses, a little bit, right? But maybe not a lot. So I want you to take out your note sheet and add these rules here. These are the rules of order of operations. When you see parentheses, you do them first. And I'll show you some examples. Then if you see exponents, you do those next. After that, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. After that, you're going to do multiplication and division, whichever one comes first. Then you're going to do addition and subtraction, whichever one comes first. And when you were in elementary school, your teacher might have said something about, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, to help you remember, like an acronym, PEMDAS, to do order of operations. My only problem with that is some people think you do multiplication before division because of that little acronym, and you don't. You do multiplication or division, whichever one comes first in the problem. And same with addition and subtraction. So if you use PEMDAS, that's okay. Just remember it's not multiplication before division, it's just multiplication or division, whichever one comes first. And I'll show some examples. Yeah, right. So it could be PEDMA, SAW. Because the same thing with subtraction, right? So that's why the acronym's kind of handy, but it's not perfect. So copy those rules down. And then can you see that I have 3 examples for you to try? These are sort of basic examples. And then they get more complicated. So we're going to start with the 3 basic examples on your notes. And I'm going to just pause this.
Oh yeah, I just passed it.
So some of you got 36, some of you didn't on example 1. Why? What'd you do?
Oh, I did, well, first, since multiplication comes before, or multiplication and division becomes before addition and subtraction, you do 5 times 4. 5 times 6.
5 times 6.
5 times 6.
There's no parentheses, right? There's no exponent. So he's saying since the next thing,
So 5 times 6 is 30.
right?
And then 30 plus 10, because the 10 is 4.
So let's stop there for a minute. You're absolutely right. When you do your work, I want to see your steps. Okay, so show the next step. And then 30 plus 10 is 40, like
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
Minus 4 is 36.
36. So you see how I'm kind of showing my steps, and they start out and it gets like kind of funneled down to the final answer.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what you're going for. Nice, clean work. Sevi.
I don't know why, but parentheses sort of helps me on that one.
Yeah.
I put it around the 5 and the 6, and it sort of.
So if you know that you have to do something first, you can put it in parentheses. That would bring me back to this. On this problem here, we didn't really need parentheses, but we put them in because it kind of clarifies what to go first. But really, this problem without the parentheses, if you didn't have parentheses, still by order of operations, oops, I can't write. No, it wouldn't. Without the parentheses, because you would do multiplication first, you would still do this.
Oh.
So even though the reading asks you to use parentheses, there are times where people put them in just like what you're saying, Sevi, just for clarification. they're not really needed here, but it might help you to think about it, so you could put them in. So when, in other words, like in example 2, they're needed there.
What happens if there's only one number that's in
That just means multiply.
Oh, cool.
So on this, are we ready to go to example 2?
Yeah.
So Masani, what would you do first?
I did. This is like 6 plus 2.
Good, so you got
8.
8. And then you're going to recopy if you guys didn't. That's how you're going to do this. What happens next? Keep going, Masani. So looking at the order, yep, you do the multiplication because there's no parentheses and there's no exponents. So that's good.
And then I subtracted 30. I got 6.
You subtracted 24 from 30 and you got 6. Good.
24 from 30
Yeah. 30 take away 24?
equals negative 6.
No. 24 from 30.
Oh, I
If you
think-
have $30 and I take $24 from you, you still have 6. Sebby, you want to try the next one?
No, I didn't understand that one.
Okay, so what part of it don't you understand?
Oh, it would be negative 6?
No negatives. 30 take away 24.
Oh, never mind, I did it wrong then. I did it backwards. Okay, I'll do example.
Okay, example 3.
Can I do example 3, the hard one?
Well, let's do this one first and then we'll go to those other ones.
So 12 minus 8 is 4,
Yes,
times 10
yes.
is 40, divided by 5 is
So-
8.
Good job, Sebby. So when you work this out on paper, you're going to show one step at a time. So I just did your first step. What was your second step?
Me?
Yeah, what was your second step?
Oh. I don't know, I sort of did it mentally.
Well, do it now, unmentally. Tell me what to do.
And then times 10 is 40.
4 times 10 is 40. So you need to show your steps. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Okay.
So you kind of get this funnel looking thing, right? Where your final answer is going to be what?
8.
8. Because when the problems get bigger, that really helps. So raise your hand if you understand example 3. Were we all there?
Yeah.
So the harder problems. Okay, the first question was, what happens when there's parentheses and nothing in it, like right here? That just means 2 times 4. Okay, so that's what that is. Okay, Echo. This is in your book now. This is back on your book. This is page 73, I think. So that's why it's problem C number 3. So this is now something in your book.
Okay, so
Samples.
I did the parentheses, which is 10 first.
So you're going to copy the problem and put your 10 in place of the 3 plus 7.
Yep, divided by 2 minus 2 times 4, which is 8.
Okay, so the first thing you did was the parentheses, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do it step by step. So what happens next?
There's a little bit of real-
Wait, Echo, what you did is fine, but good so far. I'm just going to, since some kids are just learning, I want to just go step by step. So what would your next step be?
Yeah, what I did it differently is I just did the 2 times 4.
And you could actually in this case.
I did 10 divided by 2, because that was first.
So for those of you that this is a little newer, do we see where that's coming from?
And the 2, or the dot equals time.
The dot equals time, so I switched those parentheses to a dot. I think it's easier to see.
And then I did 2 times 4, which is 8.
So you have 4 plus 5 minus 8,
So I did the 4 plus 5, which equals 9.
9 minus 8, which equals 1. Okay, so not everybody got a chance to try that one, so let's have you all try this.
Can I take that one?
Let's have everybody try this one. And if you've already tried that one and you have an answer, go to the, well, your classmates are working on this. Go to the page 73 and pick a different one. There's 6 different problems there to work on. You see that, Ally?
Yeah.
And if those are not hard enough for you, I'll give you another one. Okay, let's see.
Can I do the problem itself?
Yeah. Want to come up and do it?
Sure.
Okay. Your voice is going to be recorded to the mic.
Okay.
Okay. And you're writing.
So, for number 4, you have to do parentheses first. So 2 plus 5. 2 plus 3 is 5, sorry. And then, so it's like, so it's 5 in parentheses, which is multiplication. Plus 5, 3 to the second power, minus 25.
Right? You guys agree? Yes?
And then exponents is next. So 3 to the second power is 6.
No.
It's not?
3 to the second power
It's 9.
is
Oh,
9.
3 times 3.
3 times 3, right? Because it's.
Yeah.
Okay. So you might have to adjust it.
Yeah. It's 9
Right?
plus
That's a common
5
mistake, though.
times 5 minus 25. And then you do the multiplication next. So 5 times 5 is 25. So you do 9 plus 25 minus 25. And then 9 plus 25 equals 34.
Right.
34 minus 25 equals 9.
Perfect. Get it? Okay. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell on order of operations. So I'm going to record.